Thank you for your warm words. Hello and welcome to this Fireside chat at the ET BFSI CXO Conclave. It is centered around embracing the new digital era of transformation. Now, before we begin, I would like to add some context to it. Let me first introduce myself. I am Muqbil Ahmer, Executive Editor at the Economic Times ETCIO. Now, we have seen that digital transformation has really taken off, particularly over the past couple of years, and we are all conversant with the unprecedented circumstances that existed. Now, this shift has led to a lot of other changes. For example, changes in business models, revenue streams, and eventually in the basic nature of an enterprise. Therefore, going digital, which was earlier viewed as an option by some, has today become something which is mandatory, something which can be called the primary business model. And now, concomitant with this change has been several other aspects which deserve mention. For example, customers today demand a lot of new and innovative ways to connect with financial institutions. Also, there is an obligation on enterprises today to empower their employees, provide seamless experiences, particularly in the new normal, when you have the hybrid setup really becoming more and more acceptable. So today, financial institutions are faced with two situations. First is that they have to meet the ever-rising customer demands. On the second, they also have to satiate the demands being made by a very agile and a hybrid kind of a workforce. Now, this entire situation demands agility of the top order. And basically, in this session, we are going to talk about what are the technologies which would help enterprises achieve this, and what are they currently doing in this regard. And joining me on the stage is Samir, who is a brilliant and a very insightful and a very energetic and passionate speaker. Welcome to this Fireside chat, Samir. So the first question that I have for you is, what are the changes that are being embraced by the BFSI sector when they are trying to communicate both internally as well as externally?
I think, first and foremost, Thank you, Muqbil. And first and foremost, thank you very much for the warm introduction and having me here. So I think if we take a step behind and look at what has happened in the last 1.5, 2 years, I think we use the words like digital transformation and the pace of transformation, and then we talk about a hybrid work scenario. So if you look at all that, basically, even a non-tech savvy person today is using a lot of digital tools, right from purchasing to making payments. We have a lot of banking and BFSI folks out here. I don't have to tell the numbers which have gone up in digital payments, right? So people are expecting more and more. The way they consume, the way they buy, everything has changed. Be it a normal, OTT platform, or even, buying consumer durables and so on and so forth. So with this new change, the question that especially plagues the BFSI segment is it the right time? And do we really need to be a digitally native organization? Because there is a set of organizations like the Digitech, which have already seen the success and are seeing more and more demand coming in. So the banks, and not only banks, but even the rest of the financial sector is thinking about, do we need to be a digital native organization? And, digital native, what is digital native? If I have to ask that question, it is more about, flexibility and empowering your customers and employees more and more. And what do I mean by that? I read a recent article which was about, an insurance company trying to, be there when they're filing a claim, when the personal accident or personal health care. Now that is customer experience. That is improving customer experience. And that's what is changing today. It is not only about how to communicate, but it is about changing the employee and customer experience.
True, absolutely. So we also see that the BFSI sector, particularly the traditional enterprises, they have been challenged by evolving business models with the coming up of highly agile enterprises and businesses. Now, in such a scenario, how do you think that, is there a rethink required on the part of traditional enterprises when they want to connect with customers and really connect with them in the sense that, they make some business sense out of it?
Well, absolutely. I think, again, going back to the word of hybrid, I mean, we are talking about hybrid, and hybrid. What is hybrid? Hybrid is not working from home 2 days a week or 3 days a week. That's not hybrid, but it is work from anywhere. People are working. We saw some of the pictures clicked in Bangalore just, I think, last week when there were floods, and people were working sitting on the bridge when there was a flood water down there. That's what is happening. People are at the airport. People are sitting in a cab in a traffic jam, and they are working. They want to work on a platform of their choice, on a device of their choice, and at a time when they choose. It's not that they want to come to office and do it. So that flexibility, that empowerment is necessary for employees. That's what hybrid is all about. Hybrid is not about being in office or being in home. It is more about empowering the employees. And same is for the customers. Customer is today not waiting. All of us have experienced that when, today, if a customer has applied for a credit card or applied for some credit approvals and that document has not gone through for one or the other reason, how fast or how quick is the customer to put it on a Twitter or any other social media handle, right? So it gets escalated so fast. But just imagine you have a customer workflow where your relationship manager right from the start is with the customer. Not only that, but at the approval process, at the grant process, at every stage of that application, you are with the customer, then that entire workflow changes. And I think that's the requirement today for the BFSI segment to stand up and think that, are we really doing that? Are we customer-centric? Are we digitally native?
Right. And your example of the Bangalore floods, I must confess that it has really taken, hybrid to really new nuances and new possibilities which exist. That's a beautiful, beautiful example where people were working despite the floods. Wonderful example coming from you. And now your response has actually created a segue into my next question, which is about when you speak about this hybrid kind of a situation which exists where employees have to be empowered to be able to work from anywhere, anytime, and from a device of their choice. What do you think are the communication strategies or technologies that would be able to facilitate this?
Well, I think the BFSI segment has its own unique challenges because of the regulatory rules and guidelines, and rightfully so. So basically what the communication, collaboration tools and platforms are working for, let's say, a manufacturing and a pharma sector, or even IT, ITS sector may not work and doesn't work ideally for a BFSI segment. So that's the first part. And in a hybrid scenario, every employee who is working from his or her own home is a CISO by themselves. It's a small home office, and that needs to be kept secure in its own environment. So suddenly there is more focus on security. Suddenly there is more enhanced focus on devices and the environment. So, and not only that, but we're talking about the Bangalore flood scenario. Just imagine somebody working from a cafeteria, like maybe a Starbucks, or sitting somewhere working and having a confidential conversation with their customers, but somebody lurking behind and listening to it. Well, what happens about that? And as an IT and as a security organization, the choice of tools is extremely important. The choice of tools that allow you to customize your security based on the organizational requirements and the parameters is extremely important. And this brings me to the next aspect, right? I mean, that is just one thing we talked about, which is the security of the end user using the services from one of the areas. But what about this being captured somewhere, like for audit trail purposes, or for testing purposes, or for later on purposes? That's a regulatory requirement, and all those things, parameters, need to be kept in mind while choosing the collaboration platform per se.
Right. So you have really hit a chord with me in the sense that I've also worked several times from a cafe, and I was always cognizant of the fact that there are people listening, and it could be the other way around. I mean, most of the folks there are doing their bit, their work. They might feel uh, somebody stepping on their shoes. Now, this is a great example, and you have also touched on the aspect of security and compliances, which is, of course, and you saw them, how it is proving to be a challenge for enterprises. Now, apart from that, what are the other areas that you deem are primary challenges particularly for BFSI institutions when they try to facilitate this kind of hybrid work?
Well, if I have to not even talk about the word hybrid and give you some real life examples and how we are solving it at Zoom, today I think in India, one of the key challenges that the BFSI segment has is reaching into the rural areas. And that market is growing, and it's growing at a rapid pace and at such a pace which is, probably unthinkable or was unthinkable of some time back. Uh, One of our financial institution customer who caters to that particular area, has set up information kiosk for knowledge dissemination around fund management, about investments parameters at their agents or with their reseller partners in those regions. Similarly, there is another financial customer who has set up such kind of knowledge centers at the gas station.
Wow.
Would you believe that? Why? Because when the driver who has just recently purchased a truck is ideally doesn't have the finance, doesn't have the money when he goes to top up the tank at the gas station, and they need to touch base with the bank and take a finance again. How strange is that? Well, I never imagined something like that. Then we have another banking customer who is doing something very radical, and they are trying to implement this to be for a recovery stage again into the rural area, where usually the customer doesn't come back to make the payments, but it is the relationship manager or the person who is in the rural areas trying to make the collections via phone call. Well, now that happens via Zoom call, right? So that's the difference, because there is a face to the name, there is a relationship, and the installment can be deferred by a day or two, or maybe a week, as per the mutual conversation.
Absolutely. Zoom has become ubiquitous. When you gave the example of that truck driver, now you have touched upon a very important aspect, which was about how this silent digital revolution is actually happening in the rural areas, and which is primarily riding on the back of an explosive rise of acceptance and you know currency of things like the internet and smartphones. I think both these factors are tremendously fueling this huge rural market, which was at times out of the reach of a lot of banking and financial institutions. Now, really, talking to you about Samir and wrapping up this conversation, in 30 words quickly, what would your advice be to financial institutions today when they are trying to create channels of communication with their customers?
Well, I think at, at, at this time, this day, it is more about employees first and customers next. And it is all about improving their experience. And that experience cannot be in a silo. I mean, a relationship manager talking to an HNI customer or an NRI customer, well, that is great. That used to happen. But that is so lame now that, everybody assumes that that is there. But today, it is more about having that integrated approach, integrated applications, and integrated workflows where at a click of a button, at every stage, there is a relationship manager. At every stage, the customer is well informed. And we have to understand that an employee, when is not given that experience or not given that tool of their choice, they end up using the tools and devices which work for them in the field. And that is a problem. That's a massive security threat. We spoke about somebody lurking behind, but in majority of the cases, what we have seen is that these people, when they're working from the field, they end up choosing devices which are not company given. They end up choosing applications which are not company approved. just because what has been provided doesn't work for them. And that's what they end up using, putting the entire financial institution at risk. And that's what needs to be changed. The workflows for employees, the workflows for customers needs to be improvised, thereby improving the better or delivering a better employee and customer experience.
Wonderful, Samir. Thank you for your responses. And we are absolutely on top of the hour. I can see the clock there. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful discussion where we spoke about this, the need to accelerate digital transformation in terms of communication technologies. And we also spoke about the conundrum that really confronts enterprises, particularly in the banking and financial sector, where they want to empower their employees with the ability to really carry out their work wherever, whenever they want. And the technologies and the communication strategies which would help these organizations achieve these objectives. With these words, I would like to thank Samir for his very energetic and a lovely, lovely talk, a very insightful talk. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today.
Thank you, Mukbil, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you.